Jon Jones officially retires. But what does officially even mean? Also, Dana White says the UFC is likely to sign with multiple outlets or networks, right, over ESPN. But is that good for the sport? We'll get into that. Also, two fighters uh, receive all the bonuses at UFC Baku, which doesn't say much about the rest of the card. So we'll get into these topics and more next.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA Podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege. Privilege.
What up, what up? This is your boy Chris Cross checking in. This is the TCMMA Podcast. So Jon Jones has officially retired. That's the main talking point for today. And what does the word officially even mean? We've seen other fighters officially retire, like Amanda Nunes, right? To name one of many who is now coming back. So is Jon Jones definitely done? That's what we have to get into. For right now, he's done, right? He told Dana White, who told us yesterday. Then I started going around on the social media to see if it was confirmed by Jon Jones, and it was. Because my immediate thought was like, maybe Dana White just said this, right, to give Tom Aspinall the heavyweight title and force Jon Jones to come back and fight, because we've been waiting and waiting and waiting, which is not really anything new. We've discussed this multiple times on the podcast. But it appears, at least for right now, that he has retired. I don't know if I'm ready to say that he's definitely retired, right? That's different than officially. Officially means that, yes, he has retired as of right now. But will he come back? I mean, the guy's 37 years old, right? You're getting to that point where you start to slow down. We're seeing this with Alex Pereira. We're seeing this with other fighters. You slow down about 36, 37, especially in the men's division. The women are a little later, right? They 38, 39, they're still kind of in their prime. It's weird. Tom Aspinall's a guy that's 32 years old. He's in his prime. And if Jon Jones fights him and loses, that could tarnish his legacy. And I know you're thinking, you're like, Chris Cross, hold on, just because he loses a top, yes, it would tarnish his legacy. The guy is virtually undefeated. He's got that one loss on his record, but we all know that wasn't really a loss, right? He got disqualified on a rule that has since been changed. So, you know, the fact is Jon Jones has never been beaten inside the octagon. Now, you can make the case in a couple light heavyweight title fights that he lost, but he was given the decision. Okay, that's debatable. But on his record, you know, he's got a bunch of wins and one loss. So the guy is virtually undefeated. Now, the bigger question is, will Jon Jones come back? At this point, it's just nothing more than speculation. I don't know for sure. You don't know. And I don't think Dana White even knows. But what else does a guy have to fight for? He dominated the light heavyweight division for years and years and years. Went up to heavyweight at the perfect time because Francis Ngannou ended up leaving. You didn't know that at the time. He ended up leaving. Then he wins the belt over Cyril Gane. He should, right? Beat him fairly easily. Then fought Stipe Miocic when a lot of people were like, you know, he's bragging on Stipe as a great, you know, greatest heavyweight of all time and all this stuff. The guy is like 40, 41 years old. I believe 41, maybe 42, but definitely in his 40s at the time of that fight. So that was going to be an easy win for Jon Jones. But when you look at Tom Aspinall, this is a real heavyweight. Tom Aspinall is now the current heavyweight champion, or at least will officially be when the rankings come out here in a day or two. And again, the guy's in his prime. So that's a tough fight for Jon Jones. Take nothing away from this guy, right? This guy is the baddest dude on the planet in MMA that was still in the UFC. Make no mistake about it. The baddest dude on the planet. And in terms of the do list, which we definitely need to update, we still haven't updated this from UFC 316, so bear with us. I'm glad we didn't, because now you see Jon Jones at number 2, right? So Jon Jones is basically a guy that I put up against anybody and will win. But you have Khamzat Chimaev up there, and he's not going over Khamzat Chimaev. That's how much I look at Khamzat Chimaev as one of the greatest fighters right now in the UFC. But Jon Jones will be removed. Of course, then you got Islam, who's moving up to welterweight. You got a bunch of things going on there. Shavkat's up in there. Dricus du Plessis will now be 4th. So we got a 1 versus 4 matchup. Ilia Topuria will move to 5. We're going to wait and see how this all plays out. Merab Dvalishvili is looking more and more dominant. Okay. And then Tom Aspinall will be up there at like 7. So, listen, the due list needs to be updated, but how is it going to play out with Jon Jones no longer in the mix? It's hard for us when we lose a number 2 guy. I really thought this was the fight that we were going to finally get to see, but this would be the toughest fight of Jon Jones's career. So he says, you know what, it's time to hang it up. And I don't think he just hung it up because of Tom Aspinall. I think he hung it up because it's just time. I mean, you're 37 years old. You've been in the game for 17 years, since you were like 20 or 21. There's not much more to gain in the sport. Also, last night at the post-fight press conference, in addition to the Jon Jones retirement, you had Dana White answering some questions on a UFC broadcast rights deal. If you didn't know, they're currently signed with ESPN through the end of this year. With ESPN, they've hit a historic run, right? Since 2018, they've been with ESPN, or 2019, right around that time, for almost 6 or 7 years. The sport has seen tremendous growth. So is it the right idea to leave ESPN? Well, Dana White's saying the UFC is likely to sign with multiple networks or multiple outlets, maybe a Netflix, maybe an Amazon Prime, things of that nature. But is that a good idea, right? If you hit a historic run with ESPN, which only makes sense to me because you can go to one place, it's a one-stop shop, and you can get all the fights on ESPN. Yeah, you got to pay for the pay-per-view if you want that once a month. But, if you're looking at, let's just say there's 50 fights a month, 45 of them you get for like $10 to $12 a month. It's easy. So if they go to multiple networks, is it a good thing? I say no. To me, this is the worst case scenario. If they sign with a Netflix or an Amazon Prime and everything was in one place, I don't think the UFC loses anything. But sometimes a company thinks that they've done everything themselves, right? The UFC has hit historic growth. Well, that's because of the UFC, not because of ESPN. I beg to differ. I think it's a great partnership. I know for me personally, I can go there to get everything. I can see all the fights. I can get the stats, things of that nature. So how will that continue to go if the UFC is no longer with ESPN? I'm nervous about this. Like this Saturday, I got to go to USA Network, and next Saturday, I got to go to YouTube, and then the following Saturday, I got to go to Amazon Prime, right? So maybe it's good for the UFC because they're making more money on the deal, but it's bad for me and you as fans because we got to always look up where the fight's going to be at. We got to make sure we have it, and there's going to be a good amount of people that aren't going to have it, right? The viewership is out of this world. Pay-per-view sales are down, and maybe they're looking at not doing pay-per-view anymore. Maybe it's part of the package, like a Netflix says, hey, we just want the once a month pay-per-view. And remember, this is the same company at the very top, the umbrella company, that has dished out WWE to Netflix on Monday Night Raw. And then Thursday, you go over to USA. And so I'm not a big wrestling fan like I used to be when I was a young kid, but I watch it from time to time, but I'm not going around searching for it every week, right? Having multiple, one's on streaming, the other one's on regular TV. That's a problem because now the viewers got to pay a lot more money to keep up with this stuff. And I don't think the casuals are going to do that. There'll be diehard fans that do that, but the casuals won't. So yeah, you get a big broadcast deal, big money, but does it hurt the sport? That remains to be seen. Or is this all a ploy to get ESPN to dish out a little bit more money because maybe ESPN feels like, well, they may lose this thing. They don't pay what the UFC wants. So there's all these things at play we really don't know. You can't believe everything you hear, which is exactly what Jon Jones said yesterday on his uh, social media platforms, right? But at the end of the day, if it goes to multiple networks or platforms, it's not good for the viewer, in my opinion. It's good for the UFC because you're getting more money, but it's not good for the viewer. Now, do you bring other viewers into the fray? Maybe. Like I have people that I know, family, things of that nature that don't necessarily watch the UFC, but if they're flipping through the channels and all of a sudden this Saturday it's on USA, will they stop and watch? Maybe. So I don't know. I just know right now I'm very comfortable with the UFC being with ESPN, and I'm hoping and still hoping that this does not change. But this thing is dragging out well into the year, and we're looking at January 1st. The new contract will be underway. We just don't know what that new contract looks like as of right now. Yesterday, in case you missed it, UFC Baku went down in Azerbaijan, and this was a highly anticipated event. You're coming off the previous week where there were 6 straight decisions in the main card, so it's time for a big turnaround to get things fired up at Baku, but it didn't happen. Every single prelim fight went to a decision. And I know this because I'm sitting out here in the shed and it's like 100 degrees. And we had to sit through this thing and just, it was terrible, right? It was just terrible. Decision after decision, 3 rounds after 3 rounds. And it wasn't until you get to the main card where you finally get a finish. And guess what? Both of these fighters received $100K from Dana White, Nazim Sadykhov and Nicholas Mata. Listen to the finish of this fight, which got the crowd roaring in Baku. Now Nazim takes an uppercut, lands a knee, and look at the output by both these guys. Both these guys over 70 significant strikes here in the second round. And Mata now looking at the clock. And will Nazim's strategy pay off? He let Mata wear himself out in the first round. And it's slowly seeming to have worked despite the finish. Some big shots now by Nazim. Uh-oh, he's got Mata backed up. He lands a right, and that's it. The streak is over. 13 straight decisions is done. Nazim gets the finish. The man from Azerbaijan, the crowd is going crazy in Baku as the first of 3 Azerbaijan fighters in a row gets the KO victory. And again, this is coming off 13 straight decisions. And when you have 13 straight, you notice it. And now he's dancing in the octagon. The crowd's loving it. Big win for him. And this guy has been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal in the UFC. He's now 11-1. This fight went down a lightweight division. Best in the UFC at UFC Baku. Yeah, so finally Nazim Sadykhov delivered a big finish. And the crowd had been waiting over 6 or 7 fights, and you're looking at like 13 or 14 straight fights in the UFC to win to a decision. So it shouldn't really be a surprise that even though Nicholas Mata lost and Sadykhov finished him, that both these guys are getting all the win bonuses or performance bonuses or whatever you want to call them. Just say bonuses, 100K apiece for both these guys. And you know, Nicholas Mata's sitting there like, man, I lost a fight. I've never gotten a bonus off of losing a fight unless it's like fight of the night. And I'm getting a double bonus. Nicholas Mata will take it for sure. And these guys, as Dana White alluded to, it just went off. I mean, they were up near close to 100 significant strikes apiece in round 2. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but these guys were going off, and it finally led to a finish. Now, in the next fight, you had back-to-back finishes. Right? You had Tofik Musayev versus McTybeck Oralby, and this ended up being a big finish, but Dana White wasn't happy about this fight. We'll explain why after this. Oralby coming forward now, takes a left and a right. The crowd loves it. Musayev looking good here, but gets taken down again. And he just escaped a takedown, and he gets taken down, for a 3rd time, I believe? Now Oralby looking to move to side control. Or side mount, excuse me. Oh, Kimura. Oh, no. Tofik is in trouble here. He's in serious trouble. Oh, he's got to tap, and he taps, and that's it. Oral by gets the win, and the crowd lets out a roar in negativity. The crowd is silenced. Oral by on top of the octagon, and that was a tough fight for Tofik Musayev to come in on his UFC debut, and then Oral by doesn't make weight. So very, very tough fight for Tofik, and he's not going to like the outcome, but he fought a very good fighter in Oralbai, who now moves to 14-2. And you see Oralbai takes the big right. It leads to the takedown. He gets the head on the hip, and then he starts to work his way around to side mount, and then the Kimura is locked in, and that's it. So Oralbai gets the win here. This was a catchweight fight at UFC Baku. Oralbai did exactly what everyone expected him to do. Yes, Tofik was fighting at home in Azerbaijan, so the crowd's obviously supporting him, but the guy's making his UFC debut. Yeah, he's like, I believe 22-5 without looking at the exact record. Yeah, the guy had all types of accolades coming in, but he's got 5 losses against non-UFC fighters, taking on a guy in Oralbai who is on the rise, a guy that says he's fighting for the title in the future, as he told Dana White as he was leaving the octagon. And Dana White responded to him by saying, yeah, but you better make weight first. He showed up 10 pounds overweight and couldn't make weight, which is why it led to a catchweight fight. So even though he did provide a finish, which at least for the fans was good to see, he did not make weight. And sometimes guys do this on purpose. You're getting a guy in Tofik Musayev who's going to come in on short notice. He's going to make weight. You know, he's going to be depleted, and Oralbai might just say, hey, I'm not going to make weight. I'll take the pay cut on this one. You know, of course, that's speculation. Maybe he couldn't just make weight, but sometimes fighters do this on purpose, and it's hard to know. We don't know if that was the case. But the bottom line is Oralbai did not make weight. Then as you go into some of the remaining fights, you did have a good fight between Fiziev and Bahamondes that went to a decision. Fiziev won the fight. And then, of course, in the main event, Jamal Hill fell. So we lose another one in a, you know, we've lost multiple in a row now. We're down to 9-12 on the year. It's just ridiculous. We say this every week. It's absolutely ridiculous. But Khalil Roundtree did what a lot of people expected him to do, have a repeat performance like he did against Pereira. But this time he came out real slow. I mean, from the time the bell rang to start the fight, he stayed on the back of the cage, right? And he just began to chip away at Jamal Hill's lead leg, and eventually Jamal Hill was forced to switch from lefty to righty, and that's all she wrote. And it's like Jamal Hill was never in the fight, you know? And Jamal Hill looked surprised by the decision at the end, which might explain why he didn't go for it in the 5th round. But someone's got to tell this guy in the corner, like, hey, you're down like 4-0 or a minimum 3-1. You've got to get a finish here. And there was no sense of urgency in that situation. So that's how the card went down. We'll report back later on the wins and losses. We didn't track it this time, again, because we're out in the shed and it's 100 degrees. So we'll go back and break that down and update everything ahead of UFC 317 this Saturday. So by the time we get to the preview and predictions podcast later in the week, we'll have those for you and update you on everything. I mean, we're 9-12 going into Topuria versus Oliveira, which is not an easy prediction by any means. So all that is to come. Just stay tuned. All right, so let's jump into the Q&A. If you want to get involved in the Q&A, please subscribe to the channel, become a member. We usually look at those things first. Not necessarily people we know, but people that we see a lot. We're definitely going to read your comments and react to them. So make sure you leave comments on videos, become a subscriber, become a member. All those things help get your comments read or questions answered, is what it really comes down to. Now, Mark Crockford says about Khamzat Chimaev, he says, I can tell you one thing. Khamzat is not going to KO DDP. Not going to happen. Good luck to Tricus. So, and we've seen a lot of this. I mean, I know some of you are stunned when you see these things, especially if you're a Khamzat fan. You cannot believe it. But we're seeing more and more of this as we get closer to this fight. But they said the same thing about Robert Whittaker. Khalid 7-9. Khamzat will submit DDP in round 1. So there you go. Mark Crawford responds to his own comment. I think you are underestimating DDP. Khamzat may submit him, but I seriously doubt it. So that's where those two are. And this is the average fan in the UFC. right? These are average fans. This is what it looks like. People are going back and forth. And this is why we pay to see these fights, because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Hamza's number 1 on the due list, but Dreykus is number 4. So it's going to be interesting, but you already know who we got. You don't got to wait for the prediction. You already know what time it is. EP Man is back, says these top fighters are hoping that DDP wins at UFC 319 so that they don't have to face Chimaev. Yeah, I agree. They might have watched Hamza's training videos with Olympic wrestlers and thought, dang, this guy wrestling every day. And he already looked on par with top Olympic wrestlers. I don't want this smoke, man. Yeah. I mean, most fighters want to stand and strike. There's some fighters that just want to go to the ground. And if their opponent can't stop it, it's going to be a long night. And when you see a guy like this take Olympic wrestlers to the ground with ease, yeah, you don't want that smoke. And EP Man is right on par with what he's saying. One more on Hamza. Kings Amon, OG says, we know what's going to happen. DDP will throw those huge looping punches, and Hamza will time it and take him down with ease. DDP has one chance, and it's a KO punch. Hamza will dominate without a doubt. Yeah, and we're not going to disagree with you. We're not going to disagree with you. We absolutely believe what you're saying. Now, the question to me really is, will Hamza go right in for the takedown, which obviously DDP is expecting. So will it be a little bit of gamesmanship for the first minute or two? Will Hamza make it appear like he's trying to strike and then wait for DDP to relax and then go in for the takedown? That's what I want to see, because I think DDP is expecting it, although everyone expects it and no one can stop it. So if I'm Hamza, I'm just going right in for it immediately without a doubt, right? I mean, he's done it to Usman. He did it to Robert Whittaker. So, that's just the way you continue doing it. And Usman at the time was like 95% or maybe even 100% takedown defense. So we'll see what Hamza wants to do. Now, in terms of Curtis Blades and Rizvan Kuniev, which if you missed that fight last night, Blades won by split decision. Tavone, I believe, says Kuniev won that. Blades was lucky. That fight ruined my parlay with Fiziev and Roundtree. Wow, that would have been a great parlay. Fiziev, Kuniev, Roundtree. And, it gets broken up by a split decision. That stinks. I've been there. At Dig says, wow, he dominated so much. Talking about our video saying Jamal Hill will dominate Khalil Roundtree Jr. And, go ahead and give it to us. We deserve it. We're 9-12 on the year. It's been a terrible year. Our wins and losses are right on par where they've always been. Right up and down the card, our wins and losses are equal to what they are every year. We're usually over 100 wins and losses by the end, right? Like 300 plus wins, 200 plus losses, right? We're usually plus 100 overall. We're headed that way right now. But in the main event, we're just struggling. And that thing gets highlighted when you're 9-12 on the year. So go ahead and give it to me. I deserve it, man. It is what it is. And here's more. Grizio, I believe, says, just pack it in, bro. Yep. Then you got another one just laughing at me. That's all good. And Slim Jimmy said Hill dominated. Yeah. So, people are getting on me today. I expect it. We actually get more comments when we're wrong. So it's kind of good for the show sometimes. At Brim says, should be titled Jamal Hill will get dominated. Ha ha ha. Yeah, maybe I should go change the title. BMG Park, after 2 eye pokes, a knee, a cut, and a swollen eye. Are you kidding me? I know. And you know what? During that fight, I was running back and forth. To be honest with you, I had to go get some air condition again because it's 90 to 100 degrees in the shed right now. So I was tracking the fight, but I had to take a break at that time, and I missed certain aspects of it. When I'm tracking, I'm looking at the ESPN app as the stats, and then the fight stopped for like 3 or 4 minutes. I'm like, what is going on? Which is great because I got some extra AC, but I kind of missed what was going on there. That's not a fight I wanted to miss, but it just turned out that way that I had to miss that one in order to make it through the next 4 fights or however many fights came after that. But yeah, that was a long, drawn-out fight, one of the many decisions on the night. In terms of Paulo Costa and Roman Kopylov, you should have bet on Paulo's pullout. I know, right? I mean, that's like a 50-50 coin flip right now. It might even be 60-40 for the pullout. So not much to be made there. At Brandon Cuffey says, Blades, better wrestler. If not, this is even on the feet, in my opinion. And of course, that was before the fight on the prediction. And it turned out that he was right. I mean, these guys didn't really go for takedowns. It was kind of even on the feet. That's what led to the split decision. And you could make an argument either way. Of course, there's more arguments being made that Kuniev should have won, of course, because Blades won. If Blades would have lost, they would have said it was the home crowd that got him the win. The judges were swayed. So either way, the judges can't get this fight right. So, I mean, but that's what the people are talking about, right? That's why you want to get involved in the Q&A. We're curious to see what you say. We put up polls from time to time, although we've been a little lazy on that lately. But we want to know what you have to say. We want to talk about it, want to react to it. So get involved and leave your comments, and we will discuss those and break them down. Until next time, with 317 on the horizon, stay tuned for that. That podcast is going to be great. That's coming up soon. For now, it's your boy Chris Cross. Have a great day and God bless. As always, peace.